What's up everyone? We are back for the most recent Star Wars Black Series convention exclusive, which is the European exclusive, but it's our web exclusive here in the States. So we're of course taking a look today at the Hoth Han and Hoth Leia 2-pack that Hasbro has recently released. This guy comes in an interesting package. I'm kind of on the fence on it. It's interesting, but it's unruly and it's very big, and I'm not sure how easily this is going to be for me to store. But we've got it here. It comes in a slip cover, so it's got a hinged slip cover. You can kind of pull it apart like doors on the front. As you can see here, it's kind of weird to actually pull it apart, but you can do it. The front has the Black Series logo on it. The side has a shot of Han and Leia arguing, and then the other side has a write-up of Star Wars and Han and Leia and all that stuff. The top has a cool window on it, which has an AT-AT footprint, which is really nice, and you can see what I mean when it's kind of an odd shape. But the box itself houses the figures. There's just 2 figures in here, which is kind of why I think this is a little too big. It's got their accessories in there, and you can kind of see them arguing in the halls of Echo Base. So it's a cool idea. Just for me personally, I think it's a little on the big side, but they did do something pretty unique here, so I can't fault them for that. But let's get to it. Let's pull them out and take a look. Alright guys, here we go, Han and Leia out of the packaging, and for those maybe not sure of what's going on with this set, really quickly, we have got the newest Leia figure, the Hoth Leia figure. She is available in the mainline release. There is no difference between figures here. This was just kind of a first release option for people at the European conventions. Han, however, is a reissue / repaint and resculpt in some manner from the Tauntaun release that had the Hoth Han years back. That figure had no photo reel, it did not have fur, and it had the blue jacket, and this guy has the brown jacket, obviously. The thing there is that the jacket in reality is brown, but on film it looked blue. So that's why you've got the disparity there. But after this review, if you guys want to grab one for yourself, head on over to Big Bad Toy Store. They are still taking pre-orders. I'll put a link down below so you might be able to snag one. We are going to take a look at each figure individually. We'll start with Leia, and we'll start off with Articulation, see how she moves, and then we will pick it up with Han. Now, as far as Articulation for Leia goes, there's nothing really different or special or missing or extra here. She's pretty standard Black Series. We've got rotation at the head, bobble side to side. She looks up a little bit and she looks down a little bit. For having a newer ball peg style head, I'm honestly surprised she doesn't move a little better. So that's a bit of a negative, but it's not too bad. We've got arms that go out, they swivel. We've got rotation at the elbow and a single joint, but that's pretty solid. That's way more than 90 degrees there. And then we have got rotation and hinge at the wrist. She has a waist twist at a ball peg there, so she can kind of crunch, bobble side to side, and twist. Legs go really far out. They kick forward, they kick back. We've got a thigh cut, double jointed knees, and then we have got not rotation, but we've got rocker, and we've got a hinge down there at the ankle. So standard Black Series, nothing too crazy. You're not really missing anything. It's more or less exactly what you might expect to find on this figure. Now, as far as sculpt goes and paint, this figure is obviously ripe for comparison with the recent Bespin Escape Leia, and we will do that, but we got to talk about what is unique about this figure, because there are some changes, but there aren't very many. Most of what I'm interested in with this particular figure is in that head sculpt and the face printing. But we do have some paint on this figure. We obviously have some differences. She, of course, has her Hoth vest, which is a rubbery plastic. It's got a nice quilted texture on there. She's got her rank insignia painted on there, sculpted on there. We do have a communicator on her wrist, which is sculpted and painted. That is a difference from the Bespin Escape. She's got different forearms. She's got different boots, because these are actual boots and they're painted. So we've got, or they're not painted, but they're gray rather than just kind of, you know, heels or boots, whatever she was wearing on Bespin. We have got a lot of other parts that are very much the same though, and the chest, the legs, the arms outside of the communicator are not painted. There's no paint there at all. It's just white, which is fine. I mean, it makes sense for the figure and for the time period that she is representing. What I don't particularly like about this figure is that the hands are painted white. And that is definitely a negative. The joints are painted as well, and I've already got a little flaking here and there. It's not terrible, but you know, I've got a little spot on this hand right here. I worry that that's going to chip off over time, because they appear to be the hands from the Bespin Escape Leia, which those are flesh tone hands. So I don't know if there's a problem with you know, molding them in white, but they didn't. Those are definitely painted, and they're kind of odd. They're definitely not the same color as the outfit either. So the figure on its own, though, is fine, and she is, of course, a smaller figure. If you saw at the beginning with Han, she stands definitely shorter than Han Solo. But I do like this figure. This is, of the two, my preference, just because I like the look better. I think it has a little more going on. But we, of course, have to talk about that head sculpt because there is some fantastic work going up top. So getting in close on that head, you can see that this is far and away the best Leia head sculpt that we've gotten so far. Bespin Escape is a really nice. This is even better. They're not the same head. They're not the same face printing. There is a little difference between the two. I think the Bespin Escape is a little glossier in some ways, but this Leia looks like she's about to have an argument. She looks very much like she's a little annoyed, which is very much Echo Base Hoth Leia. The paint on this is just superb. Eyes are fantastic. They're so straight and centered. They're nicely detailed. Lips are very red. And then, of course, we've got the braid on the back of her hair that runs around her head. I really, really like this hairstyle for Leia. There's not any paint on the hair outside of the fact that the hair is painted, but there's no shading or anything like that. But it comes across pretty well. Sculpt, though, is just phenomenal. And then the face printing is, I mean, second to none in this line. This is definitely one of the better faces we've gotten so far. Now, as far as accessories goes, we've got a handful for Leia. There are 4 total accessories in this set. 3 of them go with Leia. We have got kind of like a tool here from which she's working on the Falcon. So we've got like a spanner. And then we've got the goggles that you can put over top of her head. They fit well enough. They're not the greatest fit. I feel like they're a little small to wrap fully around, but you can get them on and they look just fine. There is a little paint on them as well. And then she does, of course, have a trigger finger on her right hand, so you can put her blaster rifle in there. We've seen this a number of times, and it's just a black gun with a silver barrel on the end. So she has a bunch of stuff that are specific to her in this instance, so I like the fact that we do have a few extra things. I don't believe that any of this stuff is unique to this set, though. I think the actual retail figure comes with all of this as well. I don't have that one. I didn't want to double dip on this one, so if I'm wrong, someone let me know. But I do like what she has. They are very, very specific to what we're going for with Hoth Leia here. I like this guy in particular. It's nicely sculpted, a lot of little details on it. It doesn't have any paint on it, but at the very least, it does look cool. Of course, we do have to compare these figures. So we've got Hoth Leia and we've got Bespin Escape. There is a lot to compare, but also not a lot to compare because there's so much that is similar. Chests are similar, crotches are similar, thighs are similar, upper arms are similar. The faces are, of course, different. They've got different hairstyles. Paint applications are slightly different. They have different accessories. And there is a little bit of difference between what they overall just look like expression-wise. You can see that Hoth Leia looks a little more stern than Bespin Escape Leia. There is a definite difference like in the furrowed brow and things like that. So there is a lot of parts reuse here, which is not too common when it comes to Black Series, but this figure, it's kind of innate with that because that's just how it is. It's movie accurate. Maybe not necessarily to the point where a lot of people need both of these figures, but I am glad to have both because these are 2 top-notch Leia figures. I think I'd have to edge it out, though, and just say that Hoth Leia is my preference. You just can't really compete with that look as far as I'm concerned. And of course, next up, we have got our Hoth Han here. So we're going to take a look at articulation real quick, see how this guy moves around. This figure may be unfamiliar to some folks out there because he is pretty old and, you don't have him unless you got the Tauntaun set. So we do have an old style head here. This is obviously a new sculpt, but it's on a ball hinge. So he can look up, he can look down, and he can rotate. He doesn't really have any bobble. Arms can go out. They can rotate. We've got rotating elbow with a single joint, about 90 degrees. We have got rotation at the gauntlet here, so at the end of his gloves, basically, and then he does not have any kind of hinge at all. So same on the right hand. We do have a waist twist. He can go back, he can go forward, bobble side to side, twist. Legs go out, but he does have a rubbery coat that goes down to his thighs, so it does get in the way. Kick forward, kick back, thigh cut, double jointed knees, and then we have got rocker and hinge down here at the ankles, although mine are really, really tight, but they are fully functional. You just got to work at it on this particular figure. So he moves about as well as I would expect. I'm honestly surprised that he does not have a new style neck. I was expecting him to have a ball peg, but at the same time, he has all the motion that I would expect to find anyway, so I'm not left wanting here. All right, now as far as sculpt and paint go here, there are some key differences between the other figure, which we'll get to, but this guy's supposed to occupy a different moment in The Empire Strikes Back. He's supposed to be inside of Echo Base, not outside of Echo Base, and that's going to be one of the key differences between the two figures. Of course, we've got the updated jacket to reflect the real-world colors of the brown jacket, which I think is nicely done. It's a deep brown. It's very, very dark, and I like it. It's really nicely done, and it's the same sculpt, so there's really no difference here. There is, of course, some paint here and there. We've got silver on the belt. We've got the painted gauntlets. We've got the painted boots. All of it's really clean and nicely applied. He's got his rank insignia on his jacket here, which is painted up. It's a little different from the other version, but not in any negative way. And then we've got more paint on the back. There's a nice kind of quilted design like we see with the Hoth characters to his knee pads and also on the jacket itself. So it's a nice sculpt. I've been a fan of Hoth Han for a while. The original Black Series figure is a little underwhelming, but I like his look, and I really, really like this figure. Everything about this one really does it for me. I've said before that, I'm not a huge fan of this particular Han Solo head sculpt. I think it's still slightly off, and it's obviously the Bespin Han head repurposed, but I think this works really nicely. So we will take a look at that head sculpt and get a little closer in there, but what I want to talk about before that are the soft goods, because as we've seen lately, they are going, or at least in some ways, we haven't seen it with every figure, they're going with a shorter, more thicker fur for the soft goods, because in the original figure, this was just a sculpted piece. Here it is actually removable. You could pull this whole thing off. It looks kind of weird without it, but you can take his scarf off, so to speak, and then you can put it back on his neck. Be careful though, because it's kind of folded in on itself, and you can really mess it up if you take it off incorrectly. You have to kind of fold it back on, but I like this. It hangs pretty decently. You can actually get the head to secure it down a little better as well. And I just, in general, just like the Range Trooper, I really like this style of soft goods for fur. I think it works really, really nicely on this figure. And real quickly, here is a look at this head sculpt. Obviously, again, this is the Bespin Han head that has been repurposed. I think the paint applications are a little lighter on this figure than on the Bespin Han. I still, again, think this is an okay head sculpt. I don't rant and rave about it like other people. I think it's close enough, but it's not just not there for me. And again, that's just how I feel about this particular head sculpt. The hair is nicely done, though. It looks really good. It's a separate piece, and it's attached to the head. But I do like it. It's good, and it works really well with this particular figure, especially when we compare him to the original, because there is a night and day difference here between the new and the old. But quickly, before we compare the two figures, he does have an accessory. We get, of course, the standard Han Solo blaster pistol. We've seen this a million times before. Not really anything to write home about. We have got the standard sculpt silver barrel with a brown handle. So yeah, it's the gun we know he should have and he always comes with, and here he has it again. And here's our main event, really the big comparison for this video. We've got our new Han, we've got our old Han, and like I said, these guys occupy different times in the movie, so they aren't really replacements for one another. This is indoor Hoth Echo Base Han, this is outdoor Hoth Han. So you can see they are very similar, but at the same time they are different. Of course, the jackets are different in color. We've got the different with the soft goods here. We've got the hood up, and he has his hat this time around. So they are very, very similar, but at the same time also very, very different. And then of course you get to those head sculpts. And while I may not be over the moon with this head sculpt, there is no disputing that this face is just a mess, and they almost look like they don't even belong in the same line. So no matter what, this is a marked improvement over this guy. So overall, I am really happy with this set. I'm glad I got this over just getting HOTH LEIA on her own. There's no real need to double dip on that figure unless you want to keep this set sealed. She's a fantastic figure on her own. Great sculpt, great paint applications, and she comes with a nice array of accessories. Han is a good update while still being different enough from the original Hoth Han to warrant this set as a purchase. And in general, I just think it's a good value. We've got two figures, that's $40 on its own. Throw in a box and you're up to about $50-ish, which is the normal retail, quote-unquote retail, for this particular set. So you can't really go wrong with this one, all things considered. So that's going to do it for this look at the Star Wars Black Series convention exclusive Hoth Han and HOTH LEIA set. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.